Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. It's good to be with you again on this Tuesday morning. And if you're on the Lenny Melnick Fantasy Network, welcome to those who may be in the chat room. If you're watching on Facebook, welcome to you. If you're listening to us on any podcast throughout this great land of ours, good morning. And we've got a lot to talk about this morning, don't we? First of all, Lenny touched on this a little bit earlier. I want to talk about the Cardinals and their situation as we see it. First of all, I'm not sure when or if the Cardinals will play. And something that's, I think, curious to me is, a couple of weeks ago, the Marlins have basically a team-wide breakout, and they have to scramble. And they're picking up players off waivers, and they're back on the field in about a week, maybe? Well, maybe it's different. Okay, let me start by saying maybe it is different, but maybe it is not. And I say that because why can't the Cardinals do what the Marlins had to do? I mean, team-wide, Corona breakout, both teams. The Marlins put players on the IL who were major contributors. They picked people up basically off the scrap heap. Yeah, to play Major League Baseball this season. They're doing fairly well. Now, some of their players are still there. As I understand it, there was some conversation about Dylan Carlson, and the Cardinals starting outfield is still intact, not affected by Corona. So my question is, Major League Baseball, are the rules different for a team like the Cardinals with the great history that they have than they are for the Marlins, who frankly don't expect to win this year? So I see it that way. I see it that the Marlins were put in a situation where they had to put a team together. They put a team together. They're back on the field. The Cardinals aren't being forced to do that. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair that why couldn't the Marlins just not play? Why did they not play? Why are the Cardinals being allowed to not play? I think the situations are very similar. And now that they've started the fiasco, Major League Baseball, of not making the Cardinals go to their 30-man taxi squad, making the Cardinals pick up free agents like the Marlins had to do, now you've got to play it out almost. So we know they're not playing through Thursday. What are the chances the Cardinals play at all this week? They're supposed to be playing a doubleheader with Detroit. Pittsburgh was the first 3 days. Then it was supposed to be Detroit, a doubleheader on Thursday. Those games are all off. So there's 5 more games. And as I understand the Cardinals' record, they're 2-3. They've played 5 games. Cincinnati's played 19. By the time we get to Friday, Cincinnati will have played in excess of 20. And the Cardinals will still be sitting on number 5. So, first of all, what's the point of a taxi squad if you're not going to make the major league teams use it? So I think it's time that the Cardinals have to play by the Marlin rules. I think if it were the Yankees, Cardinals, Braves, doesn't matter. That's why we have a taxi squad. We knew we really didn't know, but we knew 2020 was going to be a unique season. It's certainly been that. We know that Corona is still out there infecting people, infecting ball players. And then I want to talk about Cleveland. So what's going on with Clevenger? I mean, police sack found to be socializing inappropriately, whatever. Clevenger takes up for him. Clevenger flies home with the team on the same flight where the air is circulating and particles are moving around, right? And then when they land, it comes out, oh, by the way, Clevenger was with Plesac, and now he's being quarantined. And I'm not going to be surprised if other Indians aren't quarantined as well. What we hope there happens is that Plesac and Clevenger both test negative for the virus, are back pitching this weekend, and there's no big deal. But if either of them, particularly Clevenger, is found to test positive, then what does that do for the rest of the tribe? And then are we in a situation similar to St. Louis, similar to the Marlins? If we can finish a 60-game schedule, and this is what's so unique. Remember back in June, when they're arguing over how many games we're going to play, and nobody was happy with 60 except the owners. Well, we should be happy if we can get 60 games for all 30 teams, take it. I just don't see it happening. The way I'm looking at it, the Cardinals are going to have to play doubleheaders like every day. 14 innings every day. Interesting. The times are what they are in 2020. I want to talk about some players now. Now that we got a discussion about Corona out of the way, and I'm giving you a different view of Yankee land this morning. You were looking at another wall the other day. I'm going to move around in Yankee world so you can see different things. But I want to talk about some players who have been cold and now may not be, or maybe heating up. And I'm sure I'm going to miss some. So feel free to go into StreamYard, post comments, put players up there. We'll talk about them, okay? First one I want to talk about, Trey Turner for the Washington Nationals. That's right, Trey Turner, world champion, started off hitting under 200. His average is now up to 235. Over his last 13 at-bats, he's 5 for 13 with a home run. Turner now looks like he's turning it around. And that's good news for the Nationals. Lenny said this morning that the Washington Nationals scored over 30% of their runs for the season last night against the Mets. But if they can continue to hit and get hot, that's what they did last year. Now, I'm going to pause a minute because we know Scherzer had a little bit of a nag. Strasburg didn't start the season. He pitched 4 good innings on Sunday, I think it was. And then the 5th, he kind of imploded. But he's back. Doesn't look like he's going on the IL. Still talked about some kind of sensation. But I got to think that the gamer in these guys will come out. We know they can pitch. And if they start to hit now with Soto back in the lineup, Turner starting to hit, I don't know about you guys, but I'm thinking the Nationals are always on the back of my mind. Okay, time after time, back on my mind again. Another player who's starting to heat up a little bit. He's now 3 for his last 7 in the last 2 games. That's MVP candidate Christian Yelich. That's right. Yelich has on the season 4 home runs, 9 RBIs. Did you not think he would heat up? How about Shohei Ohtani? 4 for his last 7, including a home run last night. Last night against Oakland. If Ohtani can now start to hit, his average is now at the Mendoza line. And for those of you who may be watching who are not baseball fanatics, that's a 200 average. But he was way down. He was like 118. Now he's up to 200. The average continues to rise. And Shohei, with that lineup, hitting as only a DH means he can play every day. He's not going to be pitching. And there's some players on the IL, and it creates an interesting situation. And since we're in Yankee land this morning, let's talk about the Yankees. We know Stanton went on the IL this weekend. And the thing about his injury, and you can talk about, well, he's going to get hurt. Well, he's in the best shape he's been in years. Stuff happens. I think I read there were 3 times as many pitcher injuries so far in this many games as there have been last year. I don't think it's so much Stanton as it is 2020. but he's sliding into second. He gets up, pulls at his pants a little bit. The next play, he runs to third. After that, the ball's put in play. He scores a run. So, first of all, he didn't come out of the game right away. And to me, it looks like a precautionary measure on behalf of the Yankees. But what do? They call up the one, the only, Clint Frazier. That's right. Clint Frazier called up. And I beg the question of you guys, if you're going to call up Clint Frazier, aren't you going to play him? Why would you call him up if you're not going to play him? If he's going to sit on the bench, you just leave him back on your taxi squad back in Scranton or Trenton. Let him keep playing there. But they've called him up. So I got to think in fantasy worlds, Clint Frazier is a player, and I think this is his chance. So he creates a real interesting problem or scenario for the Yankees. Let's say Frazier hits. Let's say Frazier hits 350 or 400 over the next 10 days. The Yankees are going to have a hard time sending Clint Frazier back down, particularly if the likes of Aaron Hicks are hitting 200. What I'm getting at is it can create some really good competition on the Yankees. Meanwhile, it gives Frazier the opportunity that many Yankee fans have been clamoring for. Give him some at-bats. Let's see what he can do. It also gives Aaron Judge a chance to DH. And I think the big winner here in all of this is Mike Talkman. Mike Talkman, I'm looking at ESPN leagues. His ownership is 9.7%. Of the last 4 games the Yankees played, he played in 3 of them. He makes good contact. He's hitting .310 on the year. He's got 4 stolen bases. That's right, 4. And that projects out to maybe 12 to 15 for the season, pending how much playing time he gets. And 12 to 15 bags in 2020 is huge. So I could see Talkman playing more outfield if Judge is DHing. Talkman probably playing some center field and left field also. Frazier getting at bats while Stanton is out. If you can pick them both up in your fantasy league, I'd say pick both Mike Talkman and Clint Frazier up, and let's see how it goes. Okay, I want to talk some DFS. Got a short show today, this morning, because tonight at 7 o'clock, it's Phil Chaplin. And at 9 o'clock, Chappie and I hit the airwaves together again. We had 1,000 views. That's right, 1,000 views on our show. So, guys, you want to tune in tonight at 9. We'll talk hard-hitting, deep fantasy news. I've got notes. They're right here. This is for tonight. This is the backside, so you can't see them. That's for tonight. We're going to talk players who may be called up, who have been called up, whether you should cut them, whether you should add them. I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to talk about Mckenzie Gore. If you haven't got Mckenzie Gore in your fantasy leagues, then you'd be really wise to go do that. Mckenzie Gore, North Carolina native Mckenzie Gore, who has 4 put-away pitches, and on a Padre team, they're going to make the playoffs. And adding Gore to that rotation at the right time. Look, write it down. With Mckenzie Gore, it's not a matter this year of if. It's a matter of when. And I want to talk with Chappie a little bit more about Gore and some other prospects tonight at 9 o'clock. So stay tuned. Tune in. This network's got you covered. Lenny starts off every day. I'm back. I hope I'm back for good. And then tonight, I'm going to be wearing my King Hap t-shirt. I'm going to have this one off. I'm bringing out the King Hap shirt tonight. So, King, if you're out there and you're listening, know that I'm going to be looking in style tonight for my 9 o'clock show. Okay? Let's talk some DFS. And I'm going to, again, talk about players who have done well against certain pitchers. If there's not enough at-bats to talk about, I'm not going to talk about it. First game today, Miami and Toronto, Eliezer Hernandez and Hyun-Jin Ryu. Not enough to talk about. Now, if you want to talk a few at-bats, Francisco Cervelli is 3 for 4 off Ryu, but I don't consider that enough of a sample size, but he is 3 for 4 off Ryu in his career. The Kansas City Royals are at the Reds. Chris Bubeck, the rookie. Well, there's not enough sample size there. Luis Castillo for Cincinnati. Neither pitcher has faced a batter more than 6 times, and Bubeck has not faced any red yet. Atlanta Braves are at the New York Yankees tonight. Touki Toussaint, keep your eye on Touki. We know the Braves have gone through some upheaval with their pitching staff. Lenny touched on it this morning. I'll touch on it now. Folty's gone. Soroka's gone. They sent down their starter last night who was absolutely pummeled. And so this start for Touki Toussaint tonight can really help solidify his spot in the rotation if he does well against Yankee World. We'll see. Never faced the Yankees before, and he's going up against another rookie, Jordan Montgomery. Jordan Montgomery, I have praised him. I've sung his praises. I think Montgomery may well be the second, if not second, third best starter the Yankees have ability-wise. We'll see how he fares off against a – and here's the thing about the Braves. Their top 5 hitters I put up against anybody. Their bottom 4 stink. It is a top-heavy lineup. And how you see Montgomery go through innings 1 and 2, if he gets through innings 1 and 2, I think he makes it through 3 and 4. So we'll see how he comes off. Acuna's red hot. Freeman's red hot. We'll see how he fares against the top of that Brave order, which is really good. It'll be a great game to watch from a perspective of seeing how these young pitchers, Toussaint and Montgomery, perform tonight. Baltimore's at Philadelphia. Alex Cobb against Zach Wheeler. They're the scheduled starters. Not a lot of sample size. JT Realmuto, the Phillies blew their chance to re-sign him. He will become a free agent. None of these are 10 at-bats, but he's 3 for 6 off of Cobb with 2 home runs. I think the 2 home runs are significant, not the fact that he's only played 6 at-bats or had 6 at-bats about get him, but the thing that he's had 2 home runs in those 6 at-bats. So I like Realmuto's price is probably going to be high. McCutcheon's also 3 for 6. Gregorius is 3 for 7. Where I'm going here is this was Cobb probably a year or 2 ago. Cobb looks better this year. This is a good hitting Philly lineup. I'm really interested to see how Cobb performs against the Phillies tonight. Trade deadline's 2 weeks away. This is a huge step. If the Orioles could get a good outing out of Cobb, I would trade him before his next start. I really would. Now, I don't know that they'll do that, but if he could go in there and give you 6 innings, give up 2 runs or less, strike out a few, and not walk anybody, I think Alex Cobb is trade bait. And a team like the Braves, who are losing pitchers, maybe even a team like the Phillies. Spencer Howard came up, mixed reviews on that start. He's a young pitcher. He's going to do well. He didn't do that great in his outing on Sunday. Probably going to be used sparingly, but used. But Cobb is certainly a chip, and the Orioles are going nowhere this year. Get some prospects, build, again, more for the future. The Chicago Cubs, John Lester, Cleveland Indians, Adam Plutko. We know the Indians are without 2 of their star pitchers until probably at least the weekend. Now for the Indians against John Lester, Carlos Santana, 5 for 18. That's a 278 average. Cesar Hernandez does not hit him well, 2 for 12. Frankie Lindor, 3 for 9. Plutko, not enough stats to talk about. White Sox are at the Tigers. Gio Gonzalez, Tyler Alexander. Now, not enough. I got a few stats here for Alexander, actually. But remember, Alexander's last outing came in relief, where he pitched about 3 1/3 innings, 3 2/3 innings. Struck out 10 batters. Are you kidding me? 9 in a row. Now, I didn't watch the game. What I heard about the game and read about the game was that the strike zone was somewhat expanded. I don't know. I know he struck out 10 in a little over 3 innings. And he's pitching today. against a White Sox team that likes to strike out a lot. So if you want to take a flyer on a pitcher in DFS, I say take one on Tyler Alexander. Probably cheap today. But against him, the stats of the White Sox are pretty good. All right. Jose Abreu, who was injured, I don't know the extent of the foot injury. One report I read this morning was that it's not serious. He'll probably play today. If he does, in his lifetime, he is 6 for 11 off of Tyler Alexander. 6 for 11. James Mccann is 4 for 10. Against Gio Gonzalez, Jonathan Scope, 6 for 21. That's a 286 clip. And of course, that's a righty-lefty situation. So I like Scope today in DFS against Gio Gonzalez. Washington and Max Scherzer playing the Mets and Rick Porcello. For the Mets, Michael Conforto. Can't say he owns Scherzer, but he's done really well. In 32 at-bats, he has 11 hits, 4 home runs, and a 344 average. I'm digging me some Conforto today in DFS, and I think you should be digging some Conforto as well. He's my Met of the day. For Porcello against the Nationals, this could be a feast, okay? So let's take a look at some of these guys. Adam Eaton, 7 for 19, 2 home runs, a 389 average. Wow. Starlin Castro, 6 for 22. That's a 271 average. Howie Kendrick, 10 for, are you kidding me? That can't be right. I was looking at the numbers wrong. 10 for 34. That's a 294 average. And Asdrubal Cabrera is 18 for 65. That's a 277 average. So all 4 of those guys against Porcello, I think, are in play today in daily leagues. Tampa Bay's at Boston. Andrew Kittredge and Martin Perez for Tampa against Martin Perez. Mike Zunino, 6 for 20 with 3 home runs, 300 average. Yandy Diaz, 4 for 12, 333. 2 right-handed bats against a left-handed pitcher who doesn't throw that hard, and we know Boston pitchers have struggled so far this year. So I'm digging me some Yandy Diaz and Mike Zunino at catcher today, probably really cheap. Minnesota at the Brewers, Tyler Clippard getting the start. And not a lot of numbers there. He's been a reliever. You know, Yelich does have a home run off of him in his career. Lindblom is pitching for the Brewers, no stats. Arizona and Colorado, Zach Gallen and Kyle Freeland. No one for the Rockies has 10 at-bats against Zach Gallen, but for the Diamondbacks against Kyle Freeland, we got several. Nick Ahmed, 7 for 21 with 2 home runs, 333 average. Kenta Maeda, 7 for 22, a homer, a 318 average. Daniel Peralta, 5 for 15, a 333 average. Here's one guy I probably won't start today. Gave you the good ones. Let's give you a bad one. Okay, you ready for a bad one? Let's do a bad one. All right, here it goes. John Jay, 0 for 10. That's right, 0 for 10 against Kyle Freeland. So if any of you John Jay fans are out there today, don't go picking him up to face Kyle Freeland. Seattle and Texas. Marco Gonzalez, that soft-throwing lefty. Texas, Joey Gallo, 5 for 15 with 2 homers. Odor is not going to play. He's on the IL hitting 400. Sensu Chu, 381. Mike Minor pitching for Texas. Not a lot there. D. Gordon, 4 for 17. That's a 235 average. That's about as good as it gets. I'd leave the Seattle Mariners alone in terms of historical numbers. Now, the Giants are in Houston. Tyler Anderson and Brandon Belak. No good stats there. Oakland and the Angels. Mike Fiers and Dylan Bundy. Here's some hitting. All right. Mr. Trout. And I reverently refer to him as Mr. Trout. Mike Trout seems to hit everybody. In his career, he's hitting 387 off Mike Fiers in 37 at-bats and with 5 home runs. David Fletcher is 7 for 11. If you're doing your math, that's 636. Pretty good average, huh? And Tommy LaStella is 3 for 10. Dylan Bundy facing athletic hitters. I'm getting my teams confused. I get excited on here. But you don't want boring, right? I mean, if you want boring, I could just talk monotone and just stare at you though. We're not going to do that. Dylan Bundy, who last time out pitched 9 innings, complete game. Chris Davis with a K, 6 for 16 off of Bundy with 3 home runs and a 375 average. Matt Chapman, the downside of that, 1 for 10 off of Bundy with 7 strikeouts. Sit Chapman in DFS. If Bundy can strike him out as an Oriole, he's only going to do even better as an Angel. Finally, the Pods and the Dodgers. It's going to be Stripling and Richards. Will Myers, 7 for 16 off of Stripling, a 435 average. Who not to start? Eric Hosmer, 1 for 14 off of Stripling with 5 strikeouts. So that's a look at some DFS do's and don'ts. Don't you like both the do's and don'ts? A lot of games on the schedule today. Everybody should be playing but the Cardinals and the Pirates. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Pirates and Cardinals going forward. It's going to be interesting to see how those games, will they make them up? How will they make them up? Cardinals playing more doubleheaders than anybody in history. What's going to happen in Cleveland with that situation? We'll keep our eye on it here on the Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports Network, on Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. And remember tonight at 7 o'clock, Chappie's Chat. At 9, Chappie and I back together again, as Hall & Oates would say. If you don't know that song, go play it. Okay? They're back together again, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, for the best news in fantasy world. It's good to be with you today, everybody. Have a great Tuesday. I'll be talking to you soon right here on Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports.